What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jack Ramsays, Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague. It is Thursday night, almost 8 o'clock, the 30th. The Dallas Mavericks are currently beating the ever-living shit out of the Minnesota Timberwolves. It is a snuff film on cable TV, which means they can show a little blood and guts, because right now Luka has ripped the heart out of that entire franchise. I mean, I'd say still beating heart, but it does the Timberwolves really never had a beating heart. It's a franchise with the worst winning percentage in sports history in North America. So enjoy this little win while you can, Minnesota, and hopefully this isn't a one and done for you.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not going to go there. It was a remarkable year for them. They exceeded their expectations.
Oh, for sure. I wasn't trying to crap on them entirely. Just the fact they were just getting run over.
Well, they're a weird team. They're a weird team in the sense of I've never cared about them. They've not been relevant almost at any point in my life. And they have a combination of players I like and players I've traditionally hated, but found myself kind of weirdly rooting for in this playoff run. Today, you lose to Kyrie, Luka, and the Mavs, like no shame. To come out and play the way they played, just with no urgency, no real heart, no effort.
There's shame there.
Booed off at halftime. Like, I hope they go home very upset for the next few months thinking about it. Luka the Conqueror going in there and throwing it in the fans' face. A remarkable run by Dallas. And now, I think it sets up for what feels to me, and maybe Boston will prove this wrong, feels to me like it's going to be a pretty lengthy NBA Finals. I think we're in store for a really good Finals.
Tooting my own horn probably a little too early here. I picked Dallas as the team to be the scariest team coming out of the West. It was maybe a hot take 6 weeks ago. I don't think it is anymore.
You picked them over Denver?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a hot take at that point.
There was something about Denver. I'm like, look, you still got to beat them, all that, but I think that they're entirely beatable. They're not shown the same level of oomph that you would expect with them. And I don't think it was just Bruce Brown. I think Jamal Murray was not a shell of himself, but certainly there. But yeah, I'll do it again. I'm gonna pick Dallas over Boston. Boston's a better team, top end talent wise. I think as far as dispersal of talent, I think Luka's an unmatched force right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, let's be fair. Let's throw Kyrie in that. I know Luka's the one, but Kyrie, he's not gonna have the ring count for it. But Kyrie's now put himself officially. I think, especially if they can cap this off with a title. I think he's definitely put himself into the one of the best Robins to ever lace him up in NBA history if they can finish this thing. So I'm there.
Just
a
whole lot of cuckoo.
I don't, I know it sounds weird because their record, how good they've been. I love Drew Holiday. I think he's the dude. And I like Jaylen Brown, but I don't root for the coach that watches the town. The Tatum stuff is weird to me. And I'll take Luka. Like, good luck guarding Luka. The role guys keep playing this way. I think it could be tough. I'll take the plus money that I'm probably going to get with Dallas.
Yeah, exactly. On the betting side of things, for sure. All right, that's enough NBA talk. There's plenty of Blazers stuff. There's a lot has happened since the NBA draft lottery, which is the last time we did a show. We will start ramping up the show now. Brandon and I were just talking about it. We're going to do at least one show a week with longer form like we do this, and I will probably start cranking up some shorter length shows here coming up, matching the Patreon write-ups. If you haven't caught up with those have dropped on after every workout. I will have another one out tonight from today's workout. A little less deep of a dive just because it's second round guys with Harrison Ingram and Cam Christie, although Christie might make it into the first round if I squint hard enough. I'm surprised that he stayed in, and I'm honestly surprised that Alex Caravan, who the Blazers had in for a workout last week, stayed out.
Yeah.
So that was our Tuesday. All of them playing together.
It's interesting, Danny, because they've had 3 groups work out now.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked earlier today too about, groups that might be coming in at some point next week, but the 3 groups they've had in for most mocks is like back in first, second, undrafted type guys. They slow build into the bigger names, but a handful of those dudes have gone back to school. Caravan probably being the biggest one to me of like, really? Like, N'Faly Dante, who popped up in the news today, him, Caravan, and I know they're not the same type of prospect, but the guys like that have kind of surprised me of just even if you're not as highly thought of as some of the others, this is the draft to stay in and say
Dante's the one that was surprising to me, although I would imagine the NIL money he's going to get from Oregon is probably very real because Oregon's going to fight that. His
and
inability
Oregon's
to come
probably
back.
Gonna win.
Oregon's probably going to win. The NCAA is going to get its ass handed to him, and they should. There are very few people. Maybe Jay Billis is one of the only people I can think of off the top of my head who loves watching the NCAA get their ass handed to them more than me. It's one of my favorite pastimes. I go full Bam Margera, throw out the lawn chair, grab the popcorn, and let me watch Mark Eppert get his ass handed to him in court. It's
I mean, it's a joke. You can't logically tell me a football player gets to play 9 years in college, but
that's exactly who I brought up this morning. Or Cam Rising with the new transfer rule and having to sit another year. He just got another year.
He just got another year. He's going to be.
Meanwhile, N'Faly Dante, whose knees turned to dust 2 years in a row, can't go back and play basketball. Why? Who's it hurting? Anyways, that's I don't want to get down this rant because this will be a rabbit hole I will spend an hour on.
Well. But it's definitely a rabbit hole we can get stuck down because F the NCAA. But to your larger point, they've had the 3 groups in. I know you've posted multiple mocks on the Jack Ramsay's Patreon page. If you haven't checked it out for Danny, go check it out. I guess I'll just start generalizing, asking: is there anything you've noticed? Not that all these prospects are top end, but just something you've noticed, things you've noticed from these 3 groups.
Wings and bigs, and bigs, wings and bigs.
Can I pause you before you go off? I literally wrote after asking you that question on my show notes, mostly wings and bigs. That's all I wrote because that was my only takeaway from it.
That's what they're looking at, man.
There's a lot of mocks out right now, and a lot of these are going to change, but there's some mocks out there with a lot of point guard suggestions, and I'm just like, well, there's a lot of wings and bigs coming through right now.
I'm just... Look, man, the Blazers can take a guard. His name is Nikola Topic. He's the only one they can take in that 7th pick. And even then, that's a stretch. They cannot touch Dillingham, Shepard. No. They can't do it. Like it's just. And the funny thing is, like they know it. They're not dumb. And I don't think that they're going to rate anyone as good enough at that position to do it. Like I've kind of done the draft like mocks, just kind of like, all right, let's sim this and do it this way. Okay, what happens if this happens? What happens if this team trades out? What if this team, decides to go completely left? What is the likelihood at Portland at 7 does not have one of a wings or bigs that they like there? And it's very, very unlikely that one of 4 or 5 guys isn't going to be there. You know what I mean? So yeah. I just don't see a world.
What if? Can I throw one at you?
Yeah, go.
I mean, look, who knows what these mocks are going to have right now versus the actual way the draft's going to go. If Castle's there,
you know what? I should have included Castle in that because Castle's more wing. He's 6'6".
He claims he wants to be a point guard. He's not going to work out for these point guard teams. And I'm always like, well, teams don't care what you say. They're going to take you if they like you.
Yeah.
Come on.
So, and then it has been confirmed that he is trying to control his workout process as far as like he's not going to go work out for teams that have point guards in place, which is fine. That takes I think it's a very smart way to angle towards San Antonio.
Sure. Who wouldn't want to go play with Wemby?
Look, did you catch what Dame said the other day?
I didn't. Well, maybe I did.
Dame told the Milwaukee Journal, I want to say. I'm not familiar with all of my Milwaukee papers. Sorry if that's not the Journal Review, MJR, maybe? Review Journal? We'll go with that. He told the Milwaukee paper, next year Wemby's going to be the best player in the world. I don't think he's wrong. Or I should say, I don't want to mischaracterize Dame's words. Wemby has the chance to be the best player in the world.
There you go. I agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Will he? I don't know.
Probably.
Maybe not year 2, but year 3, tell me it happens. I won't be shocked.
Probably. He's already the best defender on the planet. Like he's
going deep point next year.
They didn't give him defensive player of the year because we can't give this girl a rookie. Are you kidding me? We always talk about how bad rookies
was so bad. They were like, well, this is not going to look good for us.
Yeah, but also like the on-off splits for him were historic. Insane.
Yeah, just insane.
But if you don't think that young players are already angling like, shit, I can hitch my wagon to him? Yeah. No matter what flaw I have, that dude behind me can cover it up.
Yeah.
And that's, if you think rookies are thinking that, the dumb kids, what do you think the professionals are thinking?
Right.
If you don't think that there are 15 guys in the league that are in the top 40 right now that are like, how do I get to San Antonio? To try to team up with him and figure it out, you are crazy.
Well, sometimes I agree and slightly disagree with that. I agree that there's definitely going to be some influx of people that's like, I want to play with this dude. But sometimes when we get these generational players, because I truly believe he stays healthy, he's generational, right? Everybody.
Look, I will say this without caveat.
Yeah.
If Victor Wembanyama stays healthy, he has the opportunity to be the best player ever.
Ever. Yes.
Ever.
I'm with you there.
That's not hyperbole from me. I genuinely believe that. His length, his athleticism, his tools allow him to be the best defensive player we've ever seen by orders of magnitude, while also being a guy who scores 25 a game. And we've never seen that.
No, you're certainly not wrong. I won't argue it either, because I think he's going to be DPOY next year. I bet the odds will show us that when the season gets closer and closer.
Minus 10,000.
My only thing is, like, there's also these handful of other guys that I wonder if the still new to the league thing / the international stuff, relationship building stuff, like, does Ann Edwards get in with certain guys and sway them to want to come play with him? Like, I think you're always going to have a group of players.
Sure. Oh, yeah, for sure. There's guys that guys want to pair up with, but Wemby right now is leading that charge.
Right.
That is the word behind the scene. Trust me.
Here's my kind of question, and I'll tie it back to the Blazers. We don't have to do a Spurs pod here, but
I hate the position that they're in because it's so good.
Well, Minnesota, I'm not ready to say that's not going to be good next year.
And I'm not going to say it's not good. They are not in a great position because financially they are in hell.
Yeah, they're going to be the second apron team, right? Dallas, and I know they're going to give $600 million to their backcourt.
Yes, but also, again, financially and asset-wise, they're very strapped. If you're looking at teams that can just do stuff,
yes,
San Antonio and Oklahoma City and Utah.
So Oklahoma City, Utah is definitely capable with their assets, but Utah's in a little bit of like, They
don't have the player yet. They just have Lowry.
They need to get that player. But of the obvious teams in the West, if we throw Wemby into that thing, right? I can't help. I've been doing it during the playoffs, and I'm going to do it now for the conversation. Everything I watch or read or listen to, I'm watching through a Blazer, shout out Bill Walton, prism. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how does this impact the Blazers? Where are the Blazers in comparison to this or that or this team? Mm-hmm. And I wonder for Joe in the Crone Zone, how team building, when you've got that dude lurking in the shadows, and plus these other teams, like the team building concept of what you like versus also what you need to counter what these teams have or have coming. I'm fascinated by it.
And that's the thing is, you take a look at particularly Oklahoma City, San Antonio, they present very unique challenges with their size. Now, less so San Antonio because it's not as great as Chet is. He's not the impact that Chet is the Clyde Drexler to Wemby's Michael Jordan. Chet's career, I feel like, is going to be so overlooked and underappreciated because he's not Wemby. Like outside of Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's going to love him. As long as he stays healthy, they're going to love and cherish that man. They're going to talk about him like, why doesn't he get enough press? And they're going to be right to an extent. Because Wemby is going to shine over all. He is the unicorn of unicorns. And if you're the Portland Trailblazers, this is why you have to keep sucking. Because you need somebody transcendent. Somebody. Is it Cooper Flagg? Is it Ace Bailey? Is it a year later and AJ DeBonsa? Like, you need somebody to overcome that level of insane greatness and ability that if you don't have it, you just can't compete.
Well, I think, if San Antonio takes a step that you and I probably would agree with, like, you tell me in the playoffs next year, I'm not going to bat an eye at it. But I think your best counter to it is just kind of the OKC model. How many dudes can you get around? Now you need an SGA, right? You need a guy.
Yeah, you
and
need a top 5 player, and then probably Chet ends up finishing as a top 5 big or at his position as a probably a 4.
Yeah, I think getting a top 5 player is kind of unrealistic with the league and where it's at right now with some of these players. But like, can you get a top 10 to 13 guy and then filling in the margins the right way? Like we were all ready to anoint Ant, and then Luka and Kyrie were like, "Yo, hold up, we've been in this league a minute. We got something to say about this." So I think some of this it's tough, but also if you can build this out the right way, yeah, that's a giant that makes a huge impact on the game. See their last game, close to the end of the season against Denver. But if you got a lot of things around, 1, 2 guys versus 6 to 7, it makes it a little more difficult for them at least.
I think so. And I think the Blazers are going to take the right process, and try to go. And this is why the whole tanking thing happens, is because this is how you accumulate these guys. You get lottery picks that turn into dudes. And I've seen some people like, well, what would they, if it was a perfect world, would the Blazers go back and redraft last year's draft or redraft the 2022 draft? And I'm like, they take Shaedon Sharpe and they take Scoot Henderson. It's not like, oh, I like those guys and I'm around those guys and I cover those guys, therefore draft those guys. Those right now continue to be the best possible picks. It's just where they are. They did not win the lottery, to have the opportunity to get Paolo, to get Chet, to get Wemby. Like, as much as I love Brandon Miller, is Brandon Miller that guy? Like, as far as like your franchise cornerstone, I very much believe he can be. But I'm not changing anything about that draft right now. And that's the thing, is like, you just have to keep going down this path because Shaedon just turned 21 today, and Scoot is 20.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where I'm sitting too, is like, we keep saying you need to find a dude. And I certainly think it's fair to say that, but
you're 3 years away from whether or not a dude is an actual dude or like a pretty good dude.
Well, somebody had put in, I don't know, we'll get some of the mailbag questions, but like somebody had put in like, where's the optimism? You know what I mean? And I get it. I've heard from all kinds of Blazer fans through this whole process. I understand it all, but I just responded with a Shaedon wink gif, just because like it's Shaedon's 21st birthday. He had unfortunate injury luck last year. I'm gonna gamble that he doesn't have it again. He's already working on the game. Like, we could see Shaedon take a massive leap next year, and it changes the math and the equation of some of this stuff. Like, that's the other part, is let's allow some of these dudes that are currently on the roster, allow them to grow, see what they are. Maybe Shaedon will become baby Kobe. He'll become a dude, and Joe and the Crone Zone will feel a hell of a lot better of where they're going directionally in the future.
And the other part of it is, what if, and hear me out now, what if those guys aren't the guy? That's okay. It sucks, but that's the process. And so that's why, again, you're going into next year in a draft that is purportedly more loaded. And look, I watched those guys at Hoop Summit, and I was like, "Whoa, this class is way better already."
Like, yeah, Danny, if you could put all
the optimism is there. That's the thing, is the optimism is the class that's coming up. That's the silver lining, is the chance that you might get one of these guys that everybody's looking at like, this might be like a 03 or an 05 draft class where you're like, there's some dudes here.
If you could put 25 eligibility wise, and you put the top 7 dudes in that class eligible for this year,
they'd probably all go before anybody in this class.
And that's kind of what I'm saying, is like that.
And it's not necessarily a knock on this class as much as that next class is holy crap loaded.
Well, this is also holy crap, not a great class. It's like,
here's the thing, like I have maybe this is a good little pivot. Yeah. So many people have asked me about this draft class, and I wrote about it holistically like 2 months ago, and I think I've probably advanced a little bit more on that as well, in that I'm taking this class for what it is. I compared Tejan Saloon's physical frame to Giannis, and when I rewrote something about him a little bit down the road, because I want to say I wrote it originally in like December, and when I came back, I was like, look, I am not saying he's Giannis. And I was like, let me go ahead and take the Giannis out of it because I don't want you to think of him as a Giannis prospect. Giannis was a 6'9" point guard that guys like Givney and Schmitz found playing B-League ball in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude had hands the size of baseball mitts and his ability to handle the ball like he was a point guard. Tijan Saloon's just figuring basketball stuff out. But I believe the phrase that I use is he has golden retriever energy. Like he's just like, ball. Like he's all about engine. Go.
Right.
Sometimes it's go face first into a wall. Sometimes it's go into a dunk. Sometimes it's go into a step back 30-footer. And you're like, bro, maybe that's not in your bag. But he tries it all. And I like that. And guys that are willing to try it all and kind of learn, like, oh, it's kind of like, putting your finger in the light socket that one time. Like, don't do that. He's got a little bit of that to him, but also you start to see him like kind of put stuff together. But so I re-caveat. I'm like, look, his floor, if he's like just a competent like IQ player, is probably Mo Wagner. Or I said his most likely outcome is probably Mo Wagner.
That's the top end ceiling part.
No. Like his likely outcome, like his 60th percentile, like slightly better than average outcome.
Okay.
Is like a 10-8. High energy big man who's a complete asshole because his energy is unrelenting. Which, good. That's fine. Totally fine. But if he puts something else together and all of a sudden he becomes like a super unique kind of high profile role guy, because I don't think he's ever like a top 3 guy on a roster. Like, I don't think that's there. But if he's your 4th or 5th guy and he shoots 37% from 3 while being 6'10", because he's going to measure in Italy next week or the week after, he's going to come in at 6'10", 230 pounds.
It's a massive
people are going to look at him and go, oh, shit. Like, he's a enormous human. And so, enormous human that can do stuff. Remind me, Derek Lively got a lot of a bag?
Mm-hmm.
No, like, he can't do shit. Like, he's not putting the ball down on the floor. He's not running DHOs. He's not like they're not running the offense through him, but he's really good on his role. Mm-hmm. And if you look around the NBA, if you find guys with size and athleticism that are really good in their role, they're super valuable, especially when they're 6'10 plus.
Yeah,
that's what I love.
Saloon is an interesting one, Danny, because I know you highlighted him pretty early as we kind of started ramping this stuff up.
Shit, I was talking about that dude back in November, and people were like, who?
Well, I'm just kind of wondering, like, too, like with a prospect like that, and the Giannis one is interesting, not in the sense of like, I think anytime somebody says stuff like that, it's like the Ant Edwards, Michael Jordan thing. It was like, there were these old crusty media members who were like, how dare you say he's Michael Jordan? It's like, no, we're just saying he like physically kind of reminds us as Mike. He
no, there were some people like, no, he's the next Mike. Like, that was a real.
Oh, okay, but like, not you and I and people who were realistic, right? We understood what they were saying with it. And I think when you say something like the Giannis thing, you don't need to explain what you mean. I know exactly what you're saying. You're not saying he's going to be Giannis. You're saying there are comps to finding a player that can make an impact with size, growth, and potential that may get overlooked. And I'm almost wondering if he's even going to be available at 7 based on some of what you're saying, some of what, like, some people are getting worried, like, oh my God, we thought we could get him at 14, and now he's in most mocks. He's within the top 10. That can change, and that can shoot up. So I think this kind of reminds me of our prior conversation, I think before the lottery, on randomly Dalton Connect, right? Like, no matter how strong or not strong you are on a prospect like that, I think kind of my point is this is a draft where there's going to be a couple players that stand out, and I think there's going to be a couple more that become very solid, reliable role guys. Mm-hmm. And
there's going to be somebody who pops that nobody sees coming.
Maybe there is, but like
there's always one. There's always one where you're like, well, damn.
Right. If the worst case scenario for Portland at 7-14 is you found a guy for the next 5-6 years that complements your roster well and is competent and we like him, I'm happy with it. I'm not going to sit there and, well, you know, he's only this, he's only that. And I think that's the thing that the Crone Zone has to figure out is, you know, not just who's our
You're
top
really trying to
end
make this happen.
guy.
I like it.
Well, I like the Crone Zone, man. Who's our top end swing guy, but like what player also makes sense with what we're building and can help our young players, you know, like if it is, and I'm just using the name because I just said it, if it's a connect, it's like, hey, he might not be all that in a bag of chips or your top 3 player, but I bet Scoot loves to kick out to a guy that's hitting 38% plus from 3. You know
You
what I
keep
mean?
trying to
Like,
put Dalton Connect in the team. I'm not going to let you do it.
that's okay.
I'm not
And
going
he
to let you
probably
do it.
won't be. He won't be. But I'm saying if they go get a guy like that, I'm just going to be happy that Scoot has somebody to pass to that might be capable of hitting a perimeter shot.
I mean, if the roster's healthy, they have a couple of guys already that can do that. But I understand what you're saying. I just don't think that's something that they necessarily prioritize. I went into that a little bit with the Tyler Smith, Khalil Ware workout, in that I'm really not that high on Tyler Smith. Like
Anything?
It's not just that. It's just athletically, he's good. He's not great. Lateral quickness isn't insane. He's a good straight line athlete, which again, most guys at 6'9" or plus, so that's like the lateral stuff is the separator. He can shoot it. There's no doubt about that. Okay rebounder. Playmaking is a non-starter.
Measure what? 6'10", right?
6'9" barefoot.
6'9".
So
Okay.
6'10" in shoes. So I 6'10". It's totally fine. He's Channing Frye, which Channing Frye is a totally fine player. Does Channing Frye make that much of a difference to this team?
If you have a dude, he does. That's the tough thing.
And so I don't think his swing is what now you put Tyler Smith on who's a playoff team that needs a big perimeter shooter.
What about the Knicks?
Yeah, perfect. Actually, that's who I mocked him to. Thank you. I was like, who did I mock him to? The Knicks. If he can not make Tom Thibodeau want to strangle him because he's defensively challenged, which is kind of funny because Channing didn't last with the Knicks because he couldn't play defense. Wow, we're coming full circle here. But it's like I think that'd be a great landing spot for him. Like if they were able to, retain Mitchell Robinson. That way you had more size if you're playing Josh or DiVincenzo or smaller guys. Now you're 6'10" and 7 foot. Like that, and you've got another shooter on the floor without sacrificing some of that. You know what I mean? So that's it. To me, it's one of those things when I look at this, and we've talked about this before. I don't think that they should be looking to try to figure out pieces on the fringes until the cornerstones are kind of, if not known, you're at least a little bit more comfortable with, if that makes sense.
No, it certainly makes sense. I guess what I would say to that, and I think this is the tough part, what if you do have cornerstones, but you can't confirm it yet?
You just keep heading down that path.
So mid to late next year, Scoot turns a corner and
then you start addressing that stuff with trades and free agency the next year. It's just look at OKC. They knew it that they needed more beef.
Yeah.
And they just let's see what it does. Let's see what it really does in the playoffs. And you saw Presti's comments.
Presti apologized. He said, this was my mistake.
I made a mistake trading for Gordon Hayward. And Gordon was like, yeah, bro, I told you. Don't trade for me. I've never seen two dudes who are both I don't want to be here and you don't want me here publicly than those two. It's been great.
I mean, Gordon Hayward, get over yourself.
It was still funny.
It was. But I said this morning on the radio show, that's absolutely one of the things. I have been somewhat critical of Joe just in the comments versus going against kind of what the comments have been in some of the pressers. I feel like he's buttoned that up more. But the one thing I've appreciated about it is he takes full accountability.
Yeah, I was to say,
he's we weren't good this year because I didn't help Chauncey out enough.
Yep.
At the end of the year, he said,
in Vegas, I failed Dame.
Yes, I mean that's.
I think the press conference stuff he stumbled into a couple times early on, and he has rectified those mistakes since then.
I think has learned from them.
Yes, he flat out said in the end of season conference or press conference this year, I didn't give him enough, but we also knew going in, remember in the preseason media we were yeah, they need shooting, playmaking, and what was it? They need more shooting, they need more playmaking. Oh, they need more ball handlers. It was and then the injuries hit immediately. It was I didn't know we needed to find out right away how badly they needed it. That was not good. That's not what I wanted. I take it back. But yeah, no, I think that's that's a pretty accurate summation of it, in that this is not the year of reckoning. Next year is the year of reckoning. Like, everyone in the organization knows it. Like, you have one more, like, all right, you get to suck again, because, like, we know the deal. And then whatever happens, if let's say they finish with the second worst record in the league, and they finish 6th in the lottery, better nail that pick.
Oh, everything's going to be on that pick.
You better nail that pick, because they're not going to get to go do it again. Well, let me put it this way. If you do, it'll be a different person making the pick in 27.
Well, you've got 4 this year, right? And I know this is kind of one or some of the questions, but like, you got 2 in the lottery. I don't know about nailing the pick in this questionable draft, but like, one of those 2, you've got to be like, all right, we feel good about blank player can be this for us if we can develop him. So I think absolutely next year it's like, you have to nail wherever you are. I think this year is still a premium on having those 2 picks if they're going to use both, and what they can identify properly at that point. So, I think we'd agree with that, right?
For sure.
Can I ask you?
No.
The coaching thing is a little odd. Just in the general sense, I'll let you kind of tee us up if you got some info or whatever, but still no assistant's been hired. The lead assistant's been gone for a minute. They don't. I'm kind of just curious of a couple things here. Have you heard anything? You smelling anything? And also, lead assistant. Only reason I say what I'm about to say is because of how it's all been set up to this point. Feels a little, who's making this hire, given the Mannix, Phoenix, Chauncey, or whatever stuff, and then they haven't picked up the extension yet. It's just kind of a weird spot that they're in. Where is the coaching stuff right now? So
I'll preface it by saying this. The Lakers don't have their coach in place yet.
Not officially.
If it's not JJ, it will be the upset of the century. But he's currently putting a staff together. There's been rumblings that the Celtics, no matter what happens here, that there's going to be a change in the coaching staff. Not at the top, just in the coaching staff. Okay. Does Minnesota make changes in their coaching staff? What's going on in Sacramento with Mike Brown and his coaching staff? Like, we're seeing that play out in real time. They're not in a hurry to get it done. By they, I mean the Blazers. But they're not wanting to get it done, if that makes sense. I have a couple names that I have heard that have come through. Nothing imminent on any of them. So the process is underway. This is not sourced. This was a spitballing thing as far as like the kind of person I think I would expect to like look at the lead assistant job. J.B. Bickerstaff and Chauncey Billups have known each other for 30 years. They played AAU'd against each other in Colorado. Okay. J.B. Bickerstaff has 3 years left on his contract. That would make it very easy for, if you are going to go with a lame duck coach and they don't pick up Chauncey's option, which would mean it'd be a 1-year deal, the Blazers would only have to offset Bickerstaff's salary for that year, and then he would continue getting paid out by the Cavs beyond that. That would make it manageable for both parties, because either way, Bickerstaff is getting paid. Because part of this and I see this from both Chauncey's side and Joe's side of why it makes sense. The lame duck isn't good for anybody, including Chauncey. Lame ducks don't happen that often for this exact reason. It's hard to go get assistance because there's no commitment beyond this year. And it's already a chaotic world on the bench behind the head coach. Nothing's guaranteed. The non-lame duck side of it from the Blazers front office and Joe's side is, look, we know we're going to be in for it another year, so why would we go get another coach right now and fire him if we know we're going to have our head down and we know the players respond to him? So while it's not a great position for either side, and I think if they could, I think the Blazers want to leave all their options open. So if they don't pick up his option, they have the ability to just let him go at the end of the season if they choose to go down that path. And Chauncey is likely using the leverage of the players in Phoenix, as well as Isaiah Thomas, who has the ear of the Suns owner, to go, hey, look, I'm wanted. I'm so wanted that they want me to take over as head coach of a team that was in the finals a couple years ago. Pick up my option. Come on. Which he should try to do. That's how leverage works.
Sure. He doesn't. I mean, he shouldn't have any.
No, because his record is what it is, and that's what the front office is going to say. So you can see this from both sides.
No, I totally get it.
It's a crappy place to be.
It's a terrible place to be. My only, I had Hyken on, and he had kind of said something similar, like, well, it really wouldn't make sense. My only counter to it is, and maybe this kind of speaks for itself because they haven't parted ways. The whole, like, let him be here for one more year and then, go figure it out, part your separate ways and all that. It only makes sense to do that if you don't have a guy. If Joe and company have not identified somebody for them yet, that makes sense.
Maybe that guy's not out there right now.
Exactly. And that's kind of my only thought, because in the first I was like, why you just, but then I'm like, well, if they don't have somebody, they would just put themselves in a tough spot to have to hire somebody that might not be necessarily their person. But it's still a weird spot for both, the front office and the coach to be in.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I get it from both sides. It sucks for both sides. And I saw somebody ask a question in there about like how have the Blazers kind of figured this out, or is this going to be awkward? I don't think it's going to be awkward. Uncomfortable if they lose in a manner that's like the 60-point games again. Yeah, that's going to get uncomfortable. But if they're just normal bad, which we expect, I don't think it's going to be an issue. But I don't think it's a win-win scenario for anyone.
Yeah, I
mean, Chauncey gets his checks and the Blazers get through this year. I guess that's the win, is like you get through the year and you tank one more time and somebody else takes it on their record. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like like I said, it's like this is not exactly what I was intending, clearly, but this is part of like the whole tanking principles. Like it's not fun. It's not fun for anyone. No one enjoys it. The shortcut through hell sucks. You're still going through hell. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, and again, I'm not trying to justify it. Well, I am, in a sense of like, I do believe in the idea of tanking. It's mathematically, it is the right way to go for team improvement. Like, it's borne out through history. This is how you do it. I would love there to be another mechanism. Please, God, give me another mechanism. I would very much appreciate it. But that's just where they are right now. But as far as the assistant coaching, like they are talking to people.
Okay.
That for a fact I know. I know a couple names that they've already talked to. I would not be surprised if you saw an announcement on at least one of the positions, if not the lead position, further down the bench. I think they'll probably have somebody there in place. Not necessarily soon, but relatively soon. So, for what it's worth.
Pride of Oregon State, JB Bickerstaff would be great to get him back.
Look, JB as a lead assistant, I think would be totally fine. I think it would be a totally fine, solid hire.
I want to get to the mailbag, trying to keep this at around 45-ish. So I know we need some time to answer a million questions that we have real quick. I know you've talked about it. Wanted to, since we haven't potted in a minute, Bill Walton passing.
Yeah.
Tragic for a lot of people. Not a lot of people, if any, really knew publicly that he was battling something like that.
No, that was the thing that was quiet behind the sscenes. I had heard that he was sick like 2 months ago, but when I heard sick, I thought like, you get a little older, like
kind of older guy sick, right?
Yeah. I didn't know it was this. So when that dropped, I was like, wait, what?
I know. I had to do a double take. It made me feel different, but it kind of weirdly reminded me of like when Paul passed. It was just like, hey,
like you knew, but like we didn't know that it had gotten that bad that fast.
Right. Obviously, I don't want to do statue debate stuff. I don't want to do any of that. It was really sad. I saw so many great stories, as I'm sure you did, and so many Blazer fans.
Jim Taylor, the former director of PR, president of PR for the Portland Trail Blazers for years, had an Instagram post that was probably the most fitting tribute to Bill Walton. If you go, I believe his Instagram's public.
What's the handle?
I think it's at J Taylor. Hold on, I'll pull it up. It made a tear kind of come to my eye.
Well, I was actually going to say that as you look that up.
It's at the Jim Taylor.
I was listening to the Breen thing today that he gave to Malika, and he's told the story, as he said, a few different times. But I was just listening to it again because you know what was crazy to me, Danny? It's I don't know if this will make sense to anybody, but like in a weird way, him passing away and seeing the reaction, it had a very Ted Lasso feel to it. And what I mean by that is he was just such a positive person that like everybody just kind of naturally gravitated towards the positivity and the person. And I told Hold All this when I had him on, of like, weirdly a Hall of Fame player who's one of the few, if ever, to do what he did with finals, regular season, 6th man of the year, the 88-game win streak, the 2 national championships, all of that basketball stuff. And weirdly, almost none of it
mattered.
Is about basketball.
Yeah.
And I don't, everybody recognizes what his greatness was and would have been had he not had the foot injuries, but and the back problems. But I think listening to Breen today, I was cooking some food and I actually was listening to it, and I kind of got teary-eyed, realistically. And I'm not just saying that for show. I didn't watch him play. I'm too young. But just seeing all of this positive, loving kind of energy, it I don't know, it just struck a chord with me of, man, he would have, or he probably, if you believe in whatever, would have loved to have heard how everybody kind of felt about him and all of the great stories that people shared that nobody knew about, and just how awesome it is to watch the sports community, at the very minimum, kind of rally in such a very positive, uplifting way around somebody who just really enjoyed every second, seemingly, of his life when he wasn't battling his own demons or injuries, making such a big impact in other people's lives when he didn't need to, for a lot of people that were very famous and people that, he or nobody else has really heard of, but they were fans and they wanted to say hi. And he had a 20-minute conversation with him. You heard that a million times. And so I wanted to touch on Bill Walton real quick before we got to the mailbag.
No, I think it's entirely fair. I mean, truly one of one as a human being and a basketball player. I can't add anything else to it that anybody hasn't said significantly better or more eloquently, that had better relationships with him. So,
all right, let's get to the mailbag.
Yeah, let's fly through some of these.
Let's shout out Freeman and Hold On. Let's do a little Walton Odin. All right, let's start here. I will scroll through. Here we go. This one. Assuming Brogdon has moved over the summer, what does a trade package with Brogdon? This is an interesting one. I know we got a couple asking this, but I've also had people in my life throwing Brogdon trades at me. And I'm like, you like that trade? Do you really like that trade? What does a Brogdon trade look like to you?
Any deal that gets him a first outside of this draft.
Just a first? Mm-hmm. Prospect?
That's all I ever wanted for Brog. When they first got him, go get another first.
Okay.
Get another first. As long as it's the first in the non-2024 draft. Totally fine.
Assuming Portland doesn't end up selecting 4 players in the draft, what type of trade do you see them employing to move one or move more of the picks?
I wouldn't be surprised if you saw one of the seconds moved for somebody else's second in a different draft. I think that's kind of the reality of it. That the closer we get to the draft, the more I'm becoming more not sure. The more I believe that they'll use both lotto picks.
Okay.
That has changed over the last month. So.
Well, I mean, this stuff is always going to evolve.
I originally did not get the sense that they were going to use both. 7 for sure. 14 was more like maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Now it feels more and more like they will use both.
I don't know why this question's being asked, but any chance Blazers try and get involved in trading for Giddey?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put this out there. I would put that percentage at 0.
I don't know what he gives you.
Not only that.
But obviously the other stuff.
The other stuff alone, I think, is a reason why they would not trade for him. So And look, you can say what you want, but the Blazers have done a pretty damn good job as far as the personnel they've brought in, the players they have brought in. They have made, it has been a real thing that they do target players that it's not an upstanding citizens. They bring in good dudes.
Yeah.
They bring in dudes that don't have baggage, so to speak. So I would be, and that is something that's not just a Joe Cronin thing. That is shared throughout the entirety of the front office. So I would be, if this front office is in charge, I would be shocked if Josh Giddey ever became a Trailblazer.
What's the worst team and still feel good about his future Danny would be willing to send Ant to if he's traded this off season?
I mean, obviously the one is always Orlando. Who else needs scoring at that spot? And that's kind of where I would go. Like
Toronto?
Yeah, they're still further off. And look, man, he's from Orlando. He'd die in Toronto. That kid hates the snow. There's a picture of him.
Ant and Scotty Barnes, though, is fun.
It is, but there's a picture of Ant in Toronto, I believe. I think Casey posted it. Might have been one in Bruce's dump. You know what? It might be one of the ones Dame posted when he left. And I asked Ant about it. He was like, that was the coldest I've ever been in my life. I hated everything about that. So I wouldn't send him to Toronto unless they were like, Kawhi level good.
I'm trying to think of bad teams that would make sense.
I wouldn't send him to a bad team. I would try to send him to a good team. And I think the Blazers would try to send him to a good team, to be honest.
Does the Nets make sense?
They're not good enough. Although him and McHale are tight.
No, but him and McHale are tight, right? They have similar workout trainer situation. It's Brooklyn. Like, that would be a nice little squad to start kind of building with.
Yeah, I mean, if they got their picks back, sure. But otherwise, they're stuck in hell.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
Yeah, no, it's San Antonio. San Antonio
is an interesting one because, like, what are you getting back? I guess
you're looking at Keldon Johnson, like just like a straight swap. That's probably what you would do. But
Utah.
I wouldn't send it. It's too cold. Let's send him to Utah.
You're worried about fucking weather here, man.
Yeah, look, have you seen my man? He is skinny as hell.
Well, bulk up, man. Wear a jacket. He's got parka money.
He's tried. He can't get any bigger. But also Utah just does. That's just, it'd be just him and Lowry. It's like they're not that good.
All right.
I'm trying to send him. I'm trying to send him to a good spot.
Well, I think Joe would be trying to send him to a good spot.
That's why I was doing it. Like I would try to send him to it. Like you could look at where Joe sent Dame. Look at where he sent CJ. Look at where he sent Norm. Like. He doesn't send guys to purgatory.
Does New Orleans make sense?
If they didn't have CJ.
Yeah.
They have CJ at home.
I know.
He makes more money and he's not as good anymore. But
yeah, I think that's the tough part.
Yeah.
Buzelis at 7 and Cody Williams at 14 was in a mock from one of the Locked On guests. Thought on the potential upside and wing length, Daniel?
I need a lot more booze than this.
Really?
I'm so out on Buzelis, dude.
You told when did they play the remix? When was that game? January, February?
January. I watched him play live, and I was like, I do not want this Sam Hyam. I do not want green eggs and ham.
You hated watching him.
It was such a painful exercise. And it wasn't even the strength stuff. When I saw him, I was just like, okay, look, you're tall, you're competitive, like you have good like weak side shot blocking instincts and like some okay rebounding, but your handle is not like, you're not Chet Holmgren out there. You're not creating space. You don't understand leverage. Your shooting is entirely theory. And look, I hate crapping on kids. I have a rule of not crapping on kids. But like, it's just, I would not go down that path. I have a rule. You have to have something relevant that gets you on the floor. He is Zach Collins 2.0. Where so much of it's just like theory. And for everybody's like, well, what about Cody Williams? Cody Williams is an elite finisher. Despite everything. His handle's not that good, or he doesn't shoot enough, or he's not aggressive
He's really
enough.
skinny.
And I'm like, and yet he still gets to the rim at reckless abandon and finishes 74% of his shots.
Yeah.
That's something I can work with. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's just, I hope the kid does well. And if the shooting comes around, great. He's a guy I'll be happy to have missed on.
Okay.
Honestly, that's where I am with all the Ignite candidates.
I think a lot of people are kind of, the Ignite got shut down for a reason.
And not even just that. I just, like Ron, if I could take his brain and his mentality and put it into an elite physical, like you put Ron Holland's brain into Jean Salon or Kel'el Ware, better. You put Ron Holland into Kel'el Ware's body, good Lord God Almighty, you have Tyson Chandler with touch.
You gotta stop talking about my guy Ron Holland like he's Ron Weasley over here, man. Like, this guy can play basketball.
What does he do? He doesn't shoot. He doesn't create. He plays really hard, which is a skill.
Yeah.
But it's like, at some point in time, it has.
What did Josh Hart do at the beginning of his career? Like, it wasn't like he was an elite shooter. He wasn't.
No, he's still not an elite shooter. But he could play make. He was an insane rebounder, and he played hard. That's the thing. Is like Ron's like a okay rebounder. Like he's a slightly above average rebounder, and that's the thing. That's the thing. It's going to save Ron is that he is 6'6" plus, and he is an insane effort guy, and it might be enough to be like he's Josh Hart without the jumper, and if that's the case, awesome. But I just again, those aren't the guys that I'm targeting.
You responded to this one, but I'm going to throw it out anyway for the pod's sake. Zach Edey. That's it. That's the question.
I don't understand the fascination with, like, number one, I saw people like, draft Edey at 7. I'm like, well, why?
7 seems a bit much.
14's too much. Like, I wouldn't use a first round pick. I was like, well, he's rising. I'm like, cool, let somebody else take him. It's very hard for me to see a team be like, you know what? Zach Edey's coming in off the bench, and we're going to run our offense through him. Look, he might be the one that bucks the trend. And shout out to that team. It's just smarter than everyone else, smarter than me. Like, Is he better than Boban? Yes, absolutely.
Peak Boban?
Yes, he's better than that. But also it's like, no.
You're out on Zach Edey.
It's entirely fine. I'm not using the pick to try to figure it out.
Okay. Topic. I've been watching some Topic YouTube.
Mm-hmm. He's fun.
And I know he's been mocked a couple times to Portland, and people are losing their minds. I just am kind of the mindset like, I'm just going to trust the front office to say, this is who we think the best player is. I
don't think that's who they're targeting, but if he was there and he was the best player on the board there that was left,
yes,
I understand the rationale because he's a 6'6" guard who, again, can get to the rim and finish at an insane rate.
Yeah.
And he's got elite playmaking ability.
And that's the part for me is like having a guy out there that can play make, if you give him the ball with 6 on the shot clock. And he's 18.
Yeah.
So, like,
and the other thing is, like, he can't shoot. I'm like, his free throw percentage shot like 86% from the line. It's like
he can get better at 28%. I mean, we know that.
Yeah. I have a reeling suspicion that very much, I'm not comparing him to Luka, but very much like Luka, who shot 30% before coming over from Real Madrid. I don't know. Did you watch Luka tonight? His 3-ball seemed to be working just fine. Like,
yeah. Ask the fan with the handkerchief. Yeah. I'd imagine that handkerchief's got thrown away.
I think Topic can come over and shoot 35-36% from 3 and be fine. It's entirely fine.
That is actually it because most of the questions we kind of went and answered already. The picks, trades.
There is one more though, because I know you're trying to get out because we wanted to keep it a little bit shorter.
Yeah, no. Is there another one?
Yeah, who has more trade value at the 4 spot? Jeremy Grant with 3 years and a player option at $30 million, or Julius Randle with 1 year and a player option?
Oh,
at $30 million? Neither, because nobody's getting traded for that number 4 spot because nobody wants that pick. Everybody keeps asking about, well, what if the Blazers trade up give up Jeremy Grant? Why? Why would you go like, you know what, let's get off of Jeremy Grant, a good player, for this potential player that's probably not ever going to be anywhere near as good as Jeremy Grant?
Is the gap between the player they think is the best and the second best bigger than we think? You think?
No.
Like, if we say, let's use SAR, right? If they got one, we kind of think they
The
go
gap
SAR.
between SAR and everyone else, I think, for me, is clear.
Oh, right, but
I think
the
from
Blazers are
2 through 10, no. Eye of the beholder.
Okay.
Eye of the beholder stuff. That's why like people are like, well, the Rockets looking to trade out of 3. Yeah, the Rockets looking to trade out of 3, and there's a reason. They're like, oh shit, we don't want to pay somebody this much money at 3. Like,
dude, there were I forgot who wrote this piece, so I'm sorry because I've read a few of these, but there was one from the combine. It was basically like 3 or 4 GM front office guys, scouts coming up, and just like, we don't want our pick. We don't even want to be in this.
That's what I've been trying to tell people about the salary slots. They don't want to pay somebody because they look at them and they go,
yeah. That's a roster spot. That's a 6th overall pick salary spot. Yeah, all that shit sucks.
So, it is what it is. And there's going to be people, me and other evaluators, that are entirely wrong. And somebody's going to way outperform that salary slot. And that GM's going to be like, people are like, that guy's a genius. And these guys are going to go, I'm a genius. And it was all guess.
General crapshoot.
Yeah, it's like the draft is not hard science, man. You can talk yourself into a lot of different things. Like the same things I said about Modest, like not being my guy. For people who like Modest, they're going to tell you, look, I believe the shooting's going to come around. It's going to be more like high school. And if it did, I look like a dumbass. Like 100%. Because now you've got the 6'10" dude with a little bit of wiggle who can shoot the hell out of the ball. Which, what did we start with? Everybody loves 6'10" dudes who can shoot.
Yep.
So, like, it all, there's so much of that is just like, and it's just, you have to have a process, and from that process, you have to trust the evaluation and the steps that you kind of come from out of that.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got through a bunch of those questions in one way or another, and I saw somebody asked who you're excited to see work out. Well, if the Blazers actually let us, or any team, let me actually watch workouts, it would be a long list. We get to do media afterwards, and then I have to sleuth and figure out, call agents, like, how did the workouts go?
Who did what? Yeah.
Who did what? Yeah. And I have to spend significantly more time chasing that information as opposed to the hour and a half that they practice or that they scrimmage. I spend multiple hours chasing that information when they could have just let me in and watched. Come on, let me in. You got anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. As soon as I get off here, I'm going to go finish up the article from the workout today. I'll probably push that out tonight. You can catch Brandon tomorrow morning and every morning, 6 to 9, Dirt and Sprague, 1080 The Fan. Catch me and my co-host, Dusty Hira, noon to 3. I will stumble into the office right before the show during workout days. So if it ever sounds like I'm like, hey, I just got in the door, because I literally just got in the door.
The door's shutting. You say hello.
Yes. Hello, friends. You can find us on social media at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague, at Jack Ramsays. Email the show, jackramsays@gmail.com. You can find my Patreon, patreon.com/Jacked Ramsays. I added a year-long subscription method on there because people are asking about that. I've already seen a handful of you have taken it. You save, I think, 10% or something like that over the year if you want to do it. And people ask you, well, why isn't this for free? Because I spend literal hours poring over this stuff, and that's how I make more money.
Journalism, man.
Yeah, that's
you
don't give it away for free. And I appreciate everybody who's been supporting. It's been really cool. Thank you all so much. Like I said, I will be doing at least some shorter form versions of the show here as we kind of ramp stuff up. And a reminder, I will be in Las Vegas, and if you guys want to do a little Jack Ramsays meetup, we're definitely going to do that. And we are going to have a show for the draft. We will have a show for the draft. Yeah. It is a 2-day thing. We will not have like a live on location thing for day 2.
No.
As I understand right now and talking to the Blazers, I think we're just going to do a press conference after night 1.
Okay.
So we'll do like the in-person thing at the PF. And ladies and gentlemen, we are under a month away from the NBA draft.
Here we go, baby. It is coming
quick. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Next week, lottery prospects are coming through. So get that on your radar, and we'll start. I'll have. If I haven't already done a write-up on them, I will have one coming out following the workout. So for Brandon, I'm Danny. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful night. Take care. Enjoy your Friday, and we'll catch you next week. See you later. Bye.